Hi everyone, it's Ann at Martin House Flowers. Happy Thanksgiving to my Canadian friends back home. And I just wanted to say thanks for tuning in. It's been about a couple weeks since I've actually filmed anything in the garden. We went away, if you saw my last video, we went away to Cape Cod and to Maine. And then I was also in Toronto for my daughter's baby shower, which is so exciting. I'm going to be a Nana. And then this past weekend, friends from Canada also came for a weekend, and we celebrated Canadian Thanksgiving yesterday. So thanks for hanging in there. Not sure if you've missed me in the garden, but anyway, I'm going to take you for a quick tour around the garden for October. I cannot believe it's October. You'll see that I have cleared almost 2 beds of my raised garden beds, which is sad. I did manage to, before my company came over the weekend, managed to make about 3 flower arrangements, and not sure how much more of the cut flowers are going to be usable, but I've slowly been cutting back some of it, and you'll see that unfortunately some of the zinnias in the later bed actually started to get powdery mildew, which is unusual because my other bed that was planted in June never got any powdery mildew. Most of it is dried up already, you'll see, but it's the newer bed where I direct sowed some zinnias and hollyhocks that turned a little powdery. So we'll take a look around, and there's a few roses that are in bloom as well. So, and Greg said on today, Columbus Day, that he was going to tackle that that little path between the raised beds, last year's tall raised beds and the other raised beds. So he's going to lay down the gravel that's been sitting there for a while. So hopefully I can include that in this video. Hopefully he actually is able to work on that today. So we've had such a whirlwind over the last couple of weeks between traveling and just taking care of day-to-day stuff with the kids. They're in full force fall mode, lots of concerts and cross country, and now I have a baby, a grandbaby along the way, so life is just crazy busy. But nevertheless, it's time to start really ramping up in the garden in terms of doing cleanup, and thought I better capture it before the weather really changes. So I'm in the greenhouse. It's really bright in here. My glasses have transitioned to the darker shades, and it's warm in here today. Let's see, the temperature, it's 80 degrees, which is awesome that it's 80 degrees today. And you'll see here, for my birthday, my mother-in-law sent me some cash to buy something just for me, and so I decided to pick up this topiary from a nursery farm that I saw along the way between here and St. Charles, and it's a myrtle topiary, so I'm really thrilled about it. It says that it's ideal for indoor or outdoor, prefers full to part sunlight, needs to keep well watered and fertilized regularly. Use scissors to maintain shape. Must be kept frost-free for decoration only. Do not consume. And it was grown in Canada. How ironic. So I have some of this organic grow fertilizer that I use for my seedlings. So I think I'm going to use that, because this is for it's an all-purpose plant food for both indoor and outdoor, I believe. So yeah, I want to just try to use what, and this is, if this works for tiny little seedlings, then it should be fine. So Linda Vader, she's the expert of topiaries, and she's talked about myrtles. So I've always wanted one. I tried my hand at those cypress topiaries, and I just bought them from Lowe's, and they got totally scorched just sitting on my potting bench over there, and so I wasn't able to save them. So yeah, I just thought I'd take you around the garden, and I'll take you on a quick tour around the greenhouse too. So thanks for joining me. So here is the table area where I keep some plants. I have some basil here in the greenhouse, and I decided to cut some of these sunflowers that had already, when I cleared up the bed, they'd gone to seed. So as you can see here, there is seed embedded in here. So I'm going to see if that works out, taking those out, but I thought I'd just let them dry up in here. I do have a bunch of packages of seeds that I want to use next summer, and I want to dedicate an area for sunflowers. So here is my blue, I'll put it up on the screen what this is, but I've had a couple of these still growing nicely in my urns, but I wondered whether annuals would look good in the would survive inside the greenhouse, but they seem to be starting to get a little worn out and going yellow. Here is my Meyer lemon tree, and I just found one of these spotted, and I have some thyme there, some magic carpet thyme on the base. So for the most part, it's looking healthy, and there's lots of new growth. But I don't know if there's an iron deficiency. I'm going to look up again. I know I fertilized it once before. I'm going to look up again what I need to do to fertilize it. I did open the blinds or the windows just now because it was getting quite warm in here, and it gets really cool at night. I was here this evening or last night, and it was super windy. It felt nice and sheltered in here, but I don't want it to be such extreme temperatures day to night. So I think during the day, I'll when it's not freezing, I'll open the windows for ventilation. Like right here, let's just open this up. Here's the other basil plant that I grew from seed earlier this spring, and it seems to be really yellowing. And I'm just rooting these, not very successfully, but probably need to change the water. Ooh, I do see a root from those trailers over there with my mandavillas. So that's just a little tour of the greenhouse. Oh, I do have down here some the first seeds that I want to work on early, maybe in January, February, and those are my pansies. These are the pansies I grew last year. Lake of Thune, Coronation Gold. You saw those in my spring containers, Celestial Blue, but I did buy some darker colors. Oh, those are just stalks from last year. I'm not repeating. Canterbury bells, I need to do some fall planting. So I did pick up some other dark colored like reds and burgundies, pansies that I'm going to try to grow early winter. And that's about it. Oh, look at the dark clouds out there. Here are my hanging, there's a hanging plant up there that I picked up, house plant, and it has little flowers on it. It's like I think it was a goldfish plant. So there's all my house plants that seem to be acclimating okay. My monstera is growing like crazy. My baby tears is suffering. I think I need to fertilize it, see if it makes a comeback. My basil, bit of a fail, you have to say, that I started weeks ago inside and brought him out here. So let's just take a look outside and walk around. Here is my topiary dwarf spruce. Excuse me. My super Zinnias are finishing up. Look at that. Some alyssum decided to grow in there. This is the hydrangea Let's Dance lovable that I rescued from the front bed and potted up, hoping I'll nurse it. Some seeds of snapdragons that have been very floriferous all summer. There is my Louise Odier rose that is really healthy. I didn't plant it until August, so I didn't end up fertilizing it because I thought it might be too late, but it's doing really well. I finally got a cage, a chicken wire cage, around this white chiffon rose of Sharon, and it's making a comeback because the rabbits, if you recall, were really attacking the canes down there. Like right here, you can see they were scraping. So luckily it's made a comeback, and I see some buds there that will be growth or flowers for next season. There's my turtle head, and I'll show you down the way. One got decimated by the rabbits, but this is finished up. It was a late bloomer. Of course, our favorite Roseanne geranium. My three hydrangeas. They're little quick fires, I think. And Roseanne geranium. And here's the other turtle head that I just planted, and it got totally scalped. And I need to build another. Whoops. Yeah, it just got, I don't know if it's going to survive. It just got eaten by the rabbits. So there's some growth there. I do need to cage that. And my string theory Amsonia is doing really well. This was the plant that I thought would be attractive to rabbits because of the feathery, leafy foliage. The kids are out there. Look at that. Let's Dance Skyview finally making a second rebloom so late in the season. So these were sitting in pots for a long time until probably July when we finally planted out, and I cut them back significantly because the leaves were all struggling. They were all like crispy. So this is all new growth, middle of the summer, so they didn't really get a chance to rebloom until now. So these are getting some fall foliage. And this is the Delish rose that I planted at the same time as Louise Odier, and I believe it grows to like 7 feet tall. So it's got some red foliage on there, which might mean that it's going to push out some blooms. And I did not fertilize this either. So just stepping back. Of course, there's my little lime hydrangeas, hedge of those. They've gone completely to the fall colors. Just get me a view of that. And my trees are doing really nicely. My Black Hills spruce on the right, my Fat Albert, the builder put in this crabapple. That is a Korean fir. That's a lilac. That is my Serbian spruce. The Serbian spruce is really cool. Sorry, this is the Korean fir. That's just another Black Hills spruce. There goes the bunny. What's so cool about the Serbian spruce is it's blue on the underside and green on the top side. Do you see that? And the pine cones are often purple in these, and they've kind of gone more of a brown again. So there's the Korean fir that struggled in the first year, shed a lot of foliage, but it's made a comeback and has definitely grown a good foot now. We bought that, it was about 7 feet tall, and I think it's almost 9 feet. And this one, our Harry Potter, aka Weeping Cypress, has grown. On my daughter's street in Toronto, they had one right on the edge of a sidewalk, and it was a good 21, 22 feet high. So this has already grown from 7 to, 15 feet, it looks like. Maybe not quite, but at least 12 feet, almost doubled in size. And this is our other Fat Albert that's going nice and blue. They've done really well. These were all planted, these evergreens here were all planted in spring of 2022. And those last two evergreens that I mentioned, the Black Hills and the Fat Albert, we just planted those last spring to finish up the row here. And then this red bud, this Rising Sun red bud, we planted this when we actually lost our stellar dogwood. So it's done much better. The funny story about this one was in the springtime, I started to notice small yellow leaves and I thought it was struggling, but in fact it was showing its rising sun colors. So I looked up the invoice and saw that it was a rising sun and had seen several on other channels, and I said, and also on the Wasco nursery site they had talked about it. I'm like, oh, that's why it's got yellow leaves. They were like small little yellow leaves like that, but then they got bigger. So I'm hoping this spring that they get their pinky purple flowers. Sorry about the kids. They're playing basketball and they're having a fun day. So I finally took the netting off of this Baptisia and it's doing well. I don't think the bunnies have gotten to the foliage now, but they basically there's only 3 healthy stalks down there or branches. There were about 5 to 7 of them when I first planted it. You can see one in the middle died. There's a 4th and 5th one there that died because they just chomped them off at the top. So yeah, and look at the penstemon. Look at how well that's doing. This attracts hummingbirds. So it's starting to grow pretty close to the lilac, but I don't know, I kind of would like it a little more if I have room in front here, because it's kind of hidden back there. And my royal candles, Veronica, I don't think I even pruned these and they just bloomed all summer long. So really amazing. That's the bloomerang lilac from Proven Winners. And there's the view. And then there's the Proven Winners Forsythia that is going to be beautiful and tall by next spring. Look at all the great new foliage. And the other bloomerang. So it's not us that's making music, making noisy music, but here is a rose that I planted. We need to clean up this. We just laid down the cardboard here. But we're going to edge all this, and I think my husband decided we're going to put some stone around here too to finish it off nicely. But I believe this could be Kiss Me Kate, and the other one is the Impressionist. And Kiss Me Kate was very, very healthy and aggressive in its first year growth. So that was planted around June, July. So, and I don't know anything about the Impressionist in terms of previous experience, so I'm guessing this might be the Impressionist. So here's the bed that I said has kind of gotten some powdery mildew. There's some of these, can never grow these. Amazing Daisies, Banana Cream. I planted 2 of them. I got them 2 for 1 sale, and sure enough, one of them has survived and the other one is gone. There's a hollyhock that's been eaten, but we had, in a previous video I showed you, that we had a nice tall healthy one, and there's a second one there. But yeah, this whole bed, as you can see, is starting to get powdery mildew, and it's really eating away at it. And here are the snapdragons from my seedlings back in May that have continued to bloom. So a little disappointed in this bed and how it was the last bed that was all direct sowed, and it seems to be going, but it's really only, the middle of October, so honestly should be expected. But this is the most impressive bed. All of these were planted actually in May, middle of May, since these were the 2 first raised beds that were built. And we put the Hortonova netting, and bunnies had decided to set up house in this bed. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that it had on pretty much every video as I came closer, started working in here, one bunny would jump out, and lately 2 of them jumped out, one after the other. But I've been cutting on these without replanting or succession planting, and they have just continued to grow and are still growing. But you can see they're kind of finishing up, but they are a cool flower. So I think so that if anything returns, I'm going to maintain this as my snapdragon bed. I might even do 2 snapdragon beds if I'm going to go potentially sell flowers to at market, or Facebook, I don't know, Facebook Marketplace, whatever I decide to do. There's a bumblebee right there. But the monarch butterflies have loved this bed of zinnias. So yeah, I think next year I'm going to just continue. I did two trays of 24 cell snapdragons, and then when I thin them out, I end up with like 4 to 6 trays. So I think I'm going to just make 2 full beds of snapdragons next year, and then do 2 full beds of zinnias, maybe direct sow some, and do some in soil blocks like I did this year. This bed here, it was half of it was direct sow. This first half, and the second half were done in soil blocks, and they came up really nicely. But they are definitely finished off. I could let them go to seed and start collecting, but I think I mentioned before I have mega packages of zinnias for next year. And I have pulled out most of my cosmos. I left this one plant and they're falling over because I saw a lot of new buds, so I might cut on these. And because you see all the buds, but I'm just loving my cosmos. So if I do 2 beds of snapdragons in the back and then 2 beds of zinnias, that'll be a lot to cut from. And so that would mean that I'd have to move my filler flowers, my salvia, my celosia, and amaranth, and cosmos. I'd have to move them to this bed here. And this is the bed that had the mini pumpkins, the baby boo pumpkins, and some squash that didn't come up because the pumpkins just sort of took over and they got very powdery mildew. So I think I'm going to do in these 2 beds filler flowers. And so in the filler flowers we have delphiniums from seed that I think will start to come up. I did cut from one of the plants this summer, but hopefully they make it through the winter because they're a perennial. There's the African daisies there, a few zinnias I just threw into direct sow just to fill in. My bachelor's buttons, which are a cool flower. So I'm going to be able to sow my cool flowers in, because we're in zone 5B and we get pretty heavy snow and winters. I will do my cool flowers early before the last frost, so probably in February, March. I'll start them indoors, and then I will plant out. We had a nice mild February this year, so hopefully that's the case. I can plant out some cool flowers, some bachelor's buttons, some snapdragons into this bed. So these will be my 2 filler flower beds. And then I'll have a salvia that I planted here. Oh, Greg put in the stone, so that's awesome. That'll kind of clean this up. And there's my Happy Jack purple clematis that was a little bit stunted by the cucumbers that were growing up this arbor. Over here I have the Arbor Rose honeymoon rose that is doing really well, and I'm not going to plant anything beside it for now. But here you go. He has put in the framework. This is how he's going to frame it out. He's going to dig down a little bit and bury it because he wants to be able to still get the lawnmower past here. And there they are. Whoops. Look at our dahlias from seed. They are still going. And our Roma tomatoes, my goodness. But some of these dahlias are pretty much done, but they attracted a ton of aphids, and I think they definitely were a decoy for the bugs, and they kept our tomatoes doing phenomenal. And I tell you, these tomatoes, I'm going to back up here, there were only roughly 6 plants total planted in here. And there's some of the grape tomatoes or cherry tomatoes that were very green when I continued to cut back the ones that were hanging down to the ground. So we just sort of left them there to see if they go red. And these are the gold medal ones that we've been harvesting a ton of. That one there, I just sort of left it and hopefully it decomposes. And my marigolds, my crackerjack marigolds, were also a decoy to try and keep bugs away, and they just somewhat took over, but they've now made room for the peppers. So all the jalapeno peppers are doing well here late summer. They're going orange, so they're looking great. And the nasturtiums that I cut back a few videos ago, they're kind of hanging in. They're always nice in the corner. So there's the crackerjack. So they're kind of finished up. And some green onions, really Jurassic ones that we got a little seedling from the high school. And the datil peppers that we got for free, the seeds. And so they kind of go green like this. And I picked some when they were green like that, but you really have to wait till they go red like this. So I'm going to pick this. And they taste just like, for the most part, a red pepper. There's a lot of seeds in them, but you know, they're okay. They were a free seed, but the marigolds were the size of my hand when they first came out. But they're, you know, the second round, if you keep cutting on them, they get smaller, but they were so amazing. Kind of a limey yellow to a lemon yellow, a bright lemon, and then your orange marigold crackerjack color. And hello. So yeah, he's going to get started on this extension of the pathway. So I'm thrilled about that. Did you see any bunnies, guys? It just sort of turned like this and the bunny was there. So last video there were 2 that came out of there, so you never know, there could still be another one. I swear they're making babies in there, because there were 2 the last time. I know. There it goes. See? The second one. So the little one was over there and he decided to hang back. I don't know the difference between a he and she, but this bed, as I was saying, is just the most amazing. And the first bed we planted in May. But yeah, that netting is not going to be reusable. They jumped right in the middle and broke it. So look at the poor zinnias. They're like all dried up. So moving on, there's the one set of sunflowers that survived out of this entire bed. We had gone through, I mentioned previously, around 5 packages of sunflowers, but the birds ate them all. We tried to direct sow them, so next year Greg wants me to try them again between these 2 hydrangeas. This one's going really yellow, golden, but I don't know. If I do plant them, I'll start them in the undergrow lights first. So here are the quick fire fabs. They've finally gone brown. It's their first spring. They were planted last fall. And let's just back up here before we forget. These are the little limes that I have 3 of. The lavender that we got on special from Lowe's, like, didn't even need to cut back. They have continuously bloomed. The daylilies that I might remove next year because I have a rose to come in, a hydrangea, one of those florist hydrangeas, greenhouse hydrangeas, bloom struck that have gone red already for fall. But look at the new growth. Look at that new growth right there. And I think I mentioned before too that I tried everything from soil acidifier to coffee grinds, and they just refused to go blue. So that's that. Our row of fruit trees. This one's a pear tree and a cherry and a pear and a cherry and another pear. I think we have 2 or 3 cherries and 2 pears, or vice versa. And the lavender, there's one in front of the air conditioner, it didn't survive, but look how awesome this is. And these are the 3 bobos, and there's the one that struggled. And this is Carefree Wonder that got eaten right down to nothing, and then I put a cloche over it and it made a huge comeback, as you can see. I did cut back the other day before our friends showed up. I did cut back I deadheaded everything. And there's an example of, it's a beautiful fuchsia pink, but they open up so largely that I find that they're just a little bit, I have to look up if this is a hybrid tea rose, but it just opens up to a very loose leaf open rose, and they tend to not stay on the branches too long. But that one's hanging there. These daylilies, the plan for these is to remove them for some David Austin roses that I have coming for spring that I ordered from my friend Barb at the garden market in Sycamore. And there's the last of my blue lavender, blue chiffon, rose of Sharon. My fuchsia hydrangea, geraniums are still doing great, and I do need to bring these into the greenhouse. My snapdragons from seed, we just threw some extra plants here. My princess spiraeas are going red now, and there's David Austin scepter dial. I went in and cleaned up all of the spotted black spot leaves, tried to pick them up from the ground as much as I could. So the scepter dial is starting to lean into here. And this is Eden, and it's definitely grown, but hasn't really, it's only grown to about this height here, like about 5 feet tall, but it only bloomed once down in the first 2.5 feet of canes, and never really bloomed up there. I don't know what happened here, but I need to get some zip ties after this little video session and climb it, train it like I did these other branches. But as you can see, New Dawn is still blooming so beautifully and so fragrant. She's my most classic rose, but she has grown up and over. And there's Midas Touch, which is a yellow rose, and all the canes are looking a little bit sparse because I cleaned up all the spotted leaves so that they wouldn't end up shedding on the ground and adding, bacteria or disease to the lower stems. But there's a new bud, David Austin Lady of Shalott. I just pruned her. She was starting to grow up into the tree. I do need to buy in the spring, I'm going to buy a obelisk to put around her so that she grows. And let's go back to the rose. So there's the poet's wife back there, and look at those weeds creeping around that I just cleaned up less than 3 days ago. But there's all these new dawn buds, but there's a new bud of the poet's wife. So it's really turning into fall, as you can see. Arctic Blue's got a new rose. I showed her in the last video. She was the feature. And this is Tchaikovsky, and I was able to cut a few blooms for our guest room for our friends Liz and Tim that were visiting over the weekend. If I can describe the scent, it's a very mild rose, classic rose scent. Maybe has a little vanilla or citrus smell to it, but it's such a mild but very pleasant rose scent. As I walk along the rose bed, the noise of the kids playing across the street got pretty loud, so I decided I had to do a voiceover. But as we come along here, there's the Nepeta that was cut back a third time, and we just passed White Diamond. This is the last two roses in the back there. That's Olivia Rose and Perfuma Madame Anissette's growing into Olivia Rose a little bit, but you can distinguish her blooms as being off-white as compared to Olivia Rose that has soft pink roses, and there are a couple buds still on Olivia Rose, which is nice. Although with the cool weather, she's growing in a little bit white as well. So I was just showing there that those two trellises are holding up Olivia Rose, and there she is. She has a nice fully cupped peony bloom, and she was very prolific. I was super happy with her. I would say she's one of my favorite roses. She has a mild fragrance and is super prolific. I've had several continuous blooms from her this summer. They were planted in May. One of the first ones that I ordered from my Sycamore Garden Market, and I'm getting a few more. She did get some yellow or black spots that I've tried to cut back. You'll see a lot of the canes are kind of defoliated, but that was to keep them. I did those a few days ago when I first came back from our week away. That's Queen of Sweden with some whiter blooms than usual. She's usually a soft pink like that. This is David Austin, Charles Darwin. And this rose was a little disappointing this year. He was growing really low to the ground, almost sprawling, and then the canes were really tall, and I bought some of these plant stakes to try and help it prop up the blooms. So I'm debating on whether or not I need to lift it up from the ground and make it grow a little taller. So we'll see in the spring. I don't want to disrupt it this fall. The lavenders, some of them are still blooming, the one in the far left and the far right. Over there, I think those are Sweet Romance. They were super healthy all summer. I have cut them back. So I finally planted the 1 gallon Sweet Romance, the third one right there, because I was giving the one that was struggling a chance, but I finally pulled it out the other day. This is the other Tchaikovsky that I cut from, and still doing really well. Look at that beautiful cream bloom. She's a little droopy. He's a little droopy now, Tchaikovsky, but still blooming nevertheless. So thrilling to see October blooms. And this is Distant Drums. Probably a third round of blooms. Also experienced a little bit of black spotting that I've been defoliating. But that's a little bit to be expected with this cold weather. I mean, it is middle of October now. And the super long cane here is Earth Angel. So there's another view of Distant Drums with the apricot center and soft pink on the outside. Sometimes there's a little bit of brown caramel tinge to it too. It's a really unique colorway for a rose. And there's the first Sweet Romance. And there's my containers. And if you recall, I had a squirrel dig up that kale plant and as a result damaged the pansies that were planted there. They were a beautiful burgundy pansy and they did not survive. And I've had to keep that cloche on there to keep them from digging anymore. And one day I actually found that little white pumpkin all the way underneath the birch tree. It had somehow been knocked over. So they're pretty aggressive. And there are some pumpkins I finally put out. I picked up the 2 tall ones from our local Meijer grocery store, and the smaller blue, or the white, and the bumpy smaller ones I got from a local farm. And there's the other container. My standard boxwood there I think needs to be cut back a little bit. It's looking a little bit stressed. And the ivy, and I'm thinking I'm going to leave these in the pot on the porch this winter. Not sure if they'll survive, but I'm hoping it works out. And my bubblegum supertunias will need to come out soon. But yeah, I had planted some bulbs in there last fall, and they didn't survive. I'm hoping that boxwood would. So there's the pansies that were disappointingly not doing very well. I'd hope they'd last longer, but they're already finished. There's Kiss Me Kate with her
super tall canes, and serendipity alliums that got spent. The blooms, the purple blooms, were finished pretty quickly. I was a bit disappointed. I'm debating on whether or not I need to move some of them. So there's my pot of snapdragons. I only put about 3 or 4 plants in there, and they've gotten really big. And my peonies that are starting to get yellow. And the 5 lavender that I planted, this 3rd one here and the 4th one are looking like they're struggling, but the 5th one there is okay. Surprisingly, those sunshine impatiens are still hanging in, and some phlox that I had cut back are trying to rebloom or resurface. And some of this coneflower that got eaten by something, they're dying back, and I'm hoping they'll make a comeback in the spring. Those were the gold colored coneflowers, and an iris, and the 7 Blue Mountain boxwoods. 4 of them had to be replaced this spring. They did not overwinter very well, so I'm really hopeful that this winter they will survive, but we'll see what happens. And here are the Let's Dance Sky View that were the #1 hydrangea of the year. I will have to admit that they were not that happy, hoping that they would have some shelter from the sun. This is a south-facing bed, hoping that they would get some shelter from this birch tree, but they struggled, and I tried to water them almost daily, and they still struggled. So we'll see what happens. Here's the mailbox bed with the cat's pajama nepeta that were cut back a 3rd time recently. Some purple coneflower, some sedum, and this particular coneflower did well, but the other 2 or 3 have struggled. There's some from seed right there. Hopefully they come back. I have totally neglected this bed. I expect this to be a drought-tolerant bed based on the plants that I put in, and I don't drag my hose link out there very often. So what you see has done really well, completely on its own, mostly from rainwater. And on the other side of the south-facing bed, the southeast bed, on the other side of the garage, is my Bali hibiscus that's almost finished. Some lavender, some hostas and heuchera. Pulmonaria hiding back there that I might move. Some of my endless summer hydrangeas looking like it's fall, and these dwarf, I don't recall the hostas, but they'll be coming out soon or cut back, and my peach digitalis foxglove that are continuing to bloom. So thrilled about those. Here's the dappled willow that we planted later in the summer, starting to shed some leaves, but is really happy, I believe, in this spot. She gets some shade and is giving me a little bit of a camouflage in front of the greenhouse. I like it there. And this is Twist and Shout, my lace cap hydrangea, and look at that new bloom. There's some new growth in there. And we come back to the work area in my potting bench and the greenhouse. So here's Greg digging up the edging to put in the landscaping stone. He's going to put them in probably flush to the sod, and I need to bring him some cardboard, and so he can throw the rest of the gravel in there and finish that up today, hopefully, or over the next few days. So that I'll show you that when it's completed, maybe in the next video.
The last thing I wanted to show is that I was debating on bringing these mandavillas into the greenhouse, but these pots are usually outside all winter, including that hose link lantern that is a solar lantern. But look at these really pretty purple flowers on here. I took some cuttings, some bunnies cut them, and I left them for dead on the ground, and I took the cuttings, put them in water, and hopefully they'll root. So I'm just debating on if I can dig up this mandevilla, because I don't think I have room in the greenhouse for this giant pot, and it survived the winter for many years, even in my other house in Canada. So here's the other one, but I do want to save some geraniums. Oh yes, and we have to plant these 2 trees in the fall, so those are going to be part of our fall planting, and we're going to plant them right there between the lilac, one on each side, and those are our dwarf Norway spruces. So these ones here I might carry in these geraniums, and the mandevilla, because it's growing, it's a vine, it's growing up the trellis here, this obelisk. Don't know that I can, well, I know I can just cut it back and hopefully save it. Did buy them half price. I have a white one over here. And for my birthday, I'm going to show you what I got for my birthday. So thanks again for joining me in today's video for my October walk around the garden. Hope you guys are having a great week, and we'll see you again on the next video.